So for the Stanford Msx program, if you've not had the opportunity to join us for an information session, here's what you really need to know. So at its core, the Stanford Msx program, it's a 1 year and it's a full-time mid-career Master's of Science in Management degree program. And you'll be coming actually to Stanford's campus to live and study alongside your peers for 1 year. And again, at the end of the day, you're going to graduate with that Master's of Science in Management degree from Stanford Graduate School of Business. While you're in the program, you're going to be focusing on two main things academically. The first part is you're going to get that streamlined business fundamental, those general management skills, so to speak. And then once you go through what we call the core curriculum, you start to customize your experience with electives. Starting in your second quarter, actually. So you'll be able to take electives both from the Graduate School of Business, but also from the School of Medicine, the law school, RD school, wherever it might be across Stanford. And we find that one of the things that really unites our community is that all of our students are coming to refine their leadership skills, also find a bit of career clarity, figuring out what's that vision for the rest of their careers. And they do that because they're studying alongside a very global cohort of mid-career business professionals. Our average class ranges from 8 years of professional work experience up to 33 years of professional work experience, giving us that average of 13 years of professional work experience in our class. But what's really cool is they're hailing from over 30 different countries and over 40 different industries. So truly, some of your greatest learning is going to be because of who you're studying alongside. So that's enough for me to kind of give you the ins and outs, the bare basics of the Stanford Msx program. We're here today because we want to connect with these fantastic MSX women. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. I want to invite my panelists to please turn on their cameras and their microphones. What you can expect from today's webinar format is I do have some pre-prepared questions that I'd like to ask them, and then we want to turn the tables over to you all to ask any question you might be curious about. So you'll go ahead and pose your questions in that Zoom Q&A function. So without further ado, let's start off with our alum on this panel. We'll go then to our current students. So Anna, can you please introduce yourself? Let us know what you did before the MSX program, what you're doing now, and then a fun fact about yourself.
Not prepared for the fun fact, but I'll come up with one as I speak. Hi, everyone. My name is Dana Neverova. I'm MSX class of 2018. Before the program, I was in finance and investing in New York City, back to New York now, helping early stage startups raise capital and find talent. So building my own startup. Fun fact, I love dancing. So therefore, I'm back in New York, enjoying the dance life and learning the new moves. So.
That was great. Well done, Anna. That's a great fun fact. Catherine, then Geraldine, and we'll end with Lyndall.
All right, guys, I'm Catherine Garlinghouse. I am MSX class of 2021. So I'm getting ready to enter my last quarter. And pre-GSB, I came from the great wide world of energy. So I worked for Chevron for about 16 years before coming back to the MSX. And in all things non-engineering. So all of the corporate communications, policy, community, government affairs, all the things I like to call solving problems so we could actually operate as a company. So highly exciting. And post GSB, I am looking for my place in, what will become, or what already is, the incredibly interesting time in the energy transition right now. So fun fact about me, I also love to dance. Basically, any type of music will make me start, shoulders going, feet tapping, all that stuff. And very fun fact, I have been almost every single part in the Nutcracker growing up. So my parents and my friends have seen the Nutcracker a lot of times.
Great, Catherine. Fantastic. Geraldine, what do you have to say?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So like Catherine, I'm also from the class of 21. I can't believe how quickly time has passed. It feels like we just started the program, but we only have 1 quarter left, so it's kind of sad that we are going to graduate soon. So I'm from Canada. I grew up in Singapore though, and I worked in the US for the past 5 years. Pre-GSB, I was working in people ops and people development, most recently as organizational and leadership development lead at Amazon. Fun fact, I used to swim for Singapore, even though I look really small. It doesn't look like an athlete, but in a different lifetime, it used to be a competitive swimmer.
It's great. And last but not least, Lindell, what do you have to say?
Hi, everybody. So good to have you all today at today's webinar. I'm Lindell. I'm from South Africa. And pre-GSB, I worked in the financial services industry. I'm a product development actuary. My biggest fame to claim is that I brought long-term care to China. So that was quite fun. Post-GSB, I'm looking forward to continue in the longevity space. I'm working with the Stanford Center of Longevity and looking at some opportunities there. And a fun fact about myself is that I have 3 kids. The first one was born in China, the second one was born in Colombia, and the third one was born at Stanford. And so we're not moving to any more countries because obviously we can't collect souvenirs from country except for children, so no more kids.
That's completely fair, Lindell. Thank you. But she's a great mom, everyone. So I would like to just, before getting into some more specific questions, I just want to ask our panelists here, that big macro question of, what led them to pursue a master's degree program, and then why did they think it was valuable for their career? So who'd like to get us started? Catherine, please.
Sure. So for me, it was a couple of things. The biggest thing was, I was kind of looking around and decided that I was ready for a change in my career. I didn't quite know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew it was time. And, for a million different reasons, I had always wanted to go back to school, but it was never quite the right time. And, I kind of was looking around and had this, oh my God, am I too old for a regular MBA? Did I miss my window? What am I going to do? I don't really want to do a night and weekend kind of thing. What else is there? And then discovered the MSX program and had one of those kind of light bulb moments like, this might be exactly what I'm looking for. It's a full-time program. It's just a year. It's Stanford. It's people from all over the world. So, it really kind of clicked for me. But the biggest thing was kind of that pit of the stomach feeling that it was time to make a change, and I needed something that wasn't just a different job. I wanted to do something to kind of work on myself for a little while first.
Excellent. Thanks, Catherine. Anyone else? Lindell, please.
Yeah, so for me, my husband had actually done the MSX program 2 years prior, and I just seen the amazing transformation in his life. And I was like, man, I want some of this too. So for me, being in a corporate environment and also starting a few small businesses, I knew that I have it in me, and I just don't know how to develop these small businesses to something bigger. So this program has been great from that point of view. I've been exposed to fantastic people. I've learned all about entrepreneurial finance. I've learned how to start a business. And so I'm really feeling ready now. So I had 3 goals, and the first one was entrepreneurship, tick. The second one was leadership, tick. And the third one was design thinking, and that has been a tick too. So those were my reasons for coming to this 1-year program.
Wonderful. Thank you. Geraldine.
So I echo a lot of what Catherine and Lindell said. And for me, in addition to that, it was 4 things. One, to cover the business fundamentals. My previous degrees were not in any business major. So I just wanted to make sure that I had solid foundation in accounting, operations, finance, etc., so that I could, as someone working in people operations, I could better connect with teams working in those departments. The second is to strengthen my leadership skills. I've taught a lot of classes on leadership development at Amazon and Harvard previously, and I just wanted to bridge my own gaps in leadership development and learn new ways of thinking, acting, and doing as a leader. The third is, as Danielle mentioned, career clarity. For me, it was really the decision on whether I wanted to stay as a generalist in people operations or to be a specialist. And more specifically, do I want to stay in people operations or branch out? And the fourth is to build deep and meaningful relationships with classmates from all over the world and faculty as well.
Great. Anna, let's end with you, please, and then we'll go on to this next question here.
I think the meaningful relationships part is something that totally drew me to Stanford. It was a sole single goal I had. I knew I wanted to invest. I come from investing background, and I wanted to surround myself with people who know so much more than I do about so many things, whose perspectives, life experiences, worldviews are different from mine. So it was a sole goal of building deep relationships. I didn't think that I will have so many true friends coming out. That's one thing that surprised me, because I think as adults, it's an intense year. We bring all of ourselves into this experience. And I think that's the biggest gift of the program and the biggest surprise, that we come out with true friendships that last a lifetime. So a few years out, I know that it's really the friends that made this experience really special.
Great, thanks for that, Anna. So that's a wonderful transition. I promised team that I've not planted her to make that transition so great, but I would like to really understand and now ask this kind of big macro question again of how is the MSX program valuable for your career, and what's been impactful about it in your personal and professional leadership growth?
I can kick off because I feel that I probably use it in my career now every single day since I've graduated on so many different levels. I feel that my classmates are in many ways my board of directors, their confidence, their sources of information, advice, and there's just so much trust. And I think more functionally, I help early stage startups raise capital. So my clients are very much members of the Stanford network. Investors that I work with, they're connected to Stanford. I totally reach out to my professors. I'm mentoring for one of my professors' classes. So every day of my life is being part of the Stanford network. And I'm based in New York. We have a pretty robust community of GSB alums here. So I feel very connected to the overall community. So I think I could have never expected this to be so intense and kind of daily interaction, and certainly by choice and by design. But every single day I'm talking to members of the GSB community in some shape or form.
Thank you for that, Anna. Lindahl, please.
Yeah, so Anna, I agree. I found this network incredibly powerful. As an actuary, it's quite easy to get a job in the USA. But just now I'm realizing I don't just have to be an actuary. With the GSB network, I can do whatever I want to do. And that may be a little bit of a pivot. So yeah, just the people are incredible. And there's that instant connection just with that Stanford brand on your arm, effectively. From a personal point of view, the MSX program, it's wonderful, and there are some hard things about it, like studying is not always easy, right? It's a lot of work, and that's been such a great test to me, especially I've got 3 kids and 2 of them are girls, and they're doing homework, and I never have to ask them not to do homework because they see me do homework all the time. And my little one, my middle one, actually on a hike recently, she said to the other one who was complaining, we were made to do hard things, so just get on and move up the hill. And so that's a personal, just we were made to do hard things. And so yeah, Stanford allows us to do hard things in the future.
That's wonderful. Please, Catherine.
So I completely agree with everything that Anna and Lindahl said. And what I would add to that is, for me, one of the things, and I have this kind of weirdly distinct memory of one of my admission interviews actually with Danielle, talking about how I think I needed to see myself differently. So from a personal level, kind of in addition to the network pieces and getting involved in the community, you know, the personal leadership journey through the MSX has been incredibly transformative for me. mostly because it helps you realize that you really can, to Lyndall's point, do whatever you want. And you are, like, your experiences are more valuable than you think they are. And you are able to position yourself for, whatever it is that really makes you excited and interested in the future. So that kind of personal journey and that opening up has been very, very powerful for me, particularly when you couple that with the Stanford network and being able to reach out to really the best and the brightest and the people who started whatever your field of interest may be. They're either at Stanford or they're one step away. So it's been pretty spectacular.
Thanks for that, Catherine. Geraldine, do you want to add something, or may I transition to the next question here?
Yeah, I just said something real quick on the network piece. I'm currently in the midst of interviewing for a role that is something that I would have designed for myself with a PE firm, but in the people space. And if not for the network and the connections and the support in the community here, I don't think that I would have progressed so quickly in the hiring process. And on a personal level, the deep, meaningful friendships with classmates that Anna and Catherine and Linda have talked about, I can definitely confirm that happens on a day-to-day basis. Catherine and myself and another classmate, we've co-hosted events with faculty, bringing them together with current students to get to know them on a more personal, intimate level. And with Lyndall, I love her family. I'm actually going swimming with them this afternoon. And the final thing I'll say is there are a lot of classes that don't just help us with our professional leadership skills, but on a much more personal level. Some of you might have heard of classes like touchy-feely, or more formally known as interpersonal dynamics. Several of us took that class this past quarter with this other class called Path to Power, which has taught us to be more shameless and more to get out of our own way. And so in our personal leadership journey, it's been incredible. I've become such a different version of myself that's a much better version of myself.
That was a great addition, Geraldine. So I really appreciate you adding that. I want to understand, so how, if anyone can give maybe a specific of how does the GSB support you as a female leader?
So I am as I mentioned, I'm in New York. We have a women's circle here. So I'm co-chair of my circle. I've been co-chair of my circle last year. That's been an incredible experience. And we host a number of events for the community here. So I always feel just deeply supported, and just email away. And it's literally one email away from anyone at the GSB, whether it's for coaching, brainstorming ideas, getting introduced to someone else. Professors are incredibly accessible and open to those interactions. And they do, when they are in New York, we get to see them as well, or anywhere else in the world where they visit, they actually often share where they're traveling. So there's so many ways to stay in touch, but in a very, I think, very meaningful and trust-based ways, because we have that shared experience and that shared farm experience.
Linda, please.
So for me, I did create a new venture course, and our lecturer, Professor Rohan, actually got us a female mentor, and I'm still in contact with her. So he really tailored our mentorship for that program. I also just think of courses like Path to Power that Geraldine has mentioned. We had a specific session on women in leadership, and our lecturer was very intentional about bringing women leaders to the paddle so that we could learn and kind of see that we can be powerful in the marketplace. Also in other courses, there are female professors who I've had, Patricia Nagasaki, for instance. She's the #1 VC in the USA, and I've had coffees with her, and just very open to speaking with women and to growing us.
That's really specific. Thank you, ladies, both for that. Looking ahead, Anna, so you're an entrepreneur. Can you share something that was your most valuable skill that you gained during your year at Stanford MSX?
Betting on myself. I think single most important thing, just my risk tolerance is nowhere. And I think I'm just generally risk-loving person on average, but I think now I can go 100%. And I also don't think anything is impossible. It's just a matter of time. I intend to do what I'm doing right now for as long as I'm alive. So hopefully 30 plus years. but ultimately just being comfortable with much higher risk and uncertainty, and knowing that things will work out because I have amazing people who will support me on this path. So I think that's single most important thing.
Great. I want to ask about kind of those students and alums that came with families. So whether with either a partner or with small children, how was that balance? What was the support that the GSB and being at Stanford really provided? Catherine, we'll let you get started, please.
And I can at least kick us off. So I'm at the GSB with my husband, and a couple of things that we did. So, you know, the nice part about the MSX program is that because, you know, we skew a little later career, it's the normal case that people are there with partners and children and things like that, rather than that being an exception to the rule if in something a little bit earlier career. So, you know, what's been nice is that, you know, partners and, you know, kids and things have developed networks together. And then, you know, for me personally with my husband, you know, we've done things like, you know, try to make sure that with all the studying and all the events and all the things going on, there's at least one weekend day where we block out the rest of the world and just have time for us. But one of the really nice things is that living on campus, Stanford's campus is absolutely spectacular. So, you know, I've been having to, you know, go to class and all these things, and my husband is taking advantage of the pools and the tracks and the climbing walls and all the things that are at the GSB that are just unbelievable. Like, you will never have access to this nice of facilities ever in your life again. And it is amazing.
So your husband's getting quite fit, yes, Catherine?
It's becoming an issue. He's way, way, way better shape than me right now.
Anyone else? Lindell, can you share how you kind of juggle that experience?
Sure. So one of my professors, she talks about that there's no such thing as work-life balance. And I agree. It's a work-life mashup. And yeah, you just got to go with it. So the practical ways that things that I've implemented is we have a helper from a Monday to a Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. who helps with the 3 kids, so that just is off my schedule. And I have a wonderful, loving, supportive husband who helps me on weekends, because unfortunately, like Catherine says, you may have to work at least one day on the weekend. I find I kind of do 2 half days. So that works well, and he helps me, he parents the other part of the time. Yeah, and I think to be honest, like, I haven't had much time to go and play golf and for runs, but I've tried to make sure whenever I can, I do. I've prioritized relationships over exercise. But in the holidays, I am all out there getting fit and healthy again. So definitely you need help. We don't have blood family here, but we have our MSX family. And every Friday we organize kids events from 5 to 6. So the partners and moms and dads, we're very connected. There's kids downstairs at the moment from next door. Everybody helps each other. So yeah, we have an MSX family. You need support as a person studying full time. I would strongly recommend that. And there are also great childcare facilities that you can put kids into during the week.
Yeah, and I want to just give you something tangible too. What we traditionally find in our MSX classes is about 1/3 of our students are coming single and living on campus. About 1/3 of our students are coming with a partner or a spouse living on campus, and then about 1/3 of our class is coming with a family and with small children. And again, all of Stanford thankfully can accommodate any type of family dynamic where you're actually living just a few minutes away from the GSB Center. So we do want this to be an incredibly inclusive community. And as no matter, again, what your dynamic is, all of the events and all the different activities are open to all of our MSX students and even our greater GSB community. So I think that's something very special about this program. Here's my final question, and then let's turn it over to audience Q&A team. I would love to know that for all the female professionals and leaders, you know, they want to maximize their impact. They want to personally grow. So what is it that they're really getting from Stanford GSB and the MSX program? And what is it that you would tell other women as they're evaluating if they should be coming to business school? It's a big, complex question, but I have faith in y'all. Geraldine, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Lindahl.
So I can start with the second question about what I would tell other women contemplating business school. The first is to be crystal clear on your why you want to go back to school. It has to be intrinsic motivation. And the second is, after you've established the why, to do it, to get out of your own way and just do it. No imposter syndrome, and know that everyone here, almost everyone here, myself included, has imposter syndrome. So if we all think we're imposters, then none of us are. And the third is to be clear on what your priorities are. There's so much going on at any given time here at the GSB that you're going to get FOMO. All of us do. And it's a matter of trying to optimize for your time here by picking the things that are most personally meaningful for you and your growth and your family, if you have a family is coming with you. You know, some people might over-index on classes and grades. Some people might over-index on building those connections. It's ultimately how are you going to spend your time? And as previous alumni have shared with us, and now I would share with you, it's to decide all of that before you even move here, so that from day one, you can optimize your time.
Lindahl, I think you wanted to say something, correct?
Yeah, so I echo Geraldine. For me, it's focus. It's very important. There's so much going on. Focus. Having your goals when you come in, and making sure that throughout the year, those goals may change, because like we're supposed to be changing, right, in business school. But to make sure that you're always putting your North Star on those goals and making sure that you're getting them. And then secondly, for me, business school is about a confidence boost. My confidence has changed tremendously since coming. I was quite confident coming into the program, and I'm super confident coming out, just to know that, like, we are here. You get one shot at life to change lives, change the world, and change organizations. So I'm here to do that. And I feel equipped to do that now after business school.
Wonderful. Catherine.
Yeah, I would add to that. Come and make the investment in yourself. You can always go get a job, but come and really, really figure out and refine your clarity of purpose in your career and what the impact is that you want to have, and use it as a springboard to get further ahead faster in where you want to go. So 100% agree with everything that Geraldine and Lindahl said. I would say to go back to something that Anna said, always bet on yourself and invest in yourself. And that is like the core reason why you do something like this. I've been talking to former colleagues on and off, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I am so glad I'm here. I'm so glad I'm spending this time to kind of unwind and figure out what I really want next, and then do it with the support of the Stanford network to be a springboard to get there.
Powerful. Anna, what would you add?
All these points resonate so much, and I'm just thinking that there's no way I would be doing what I'm doing today if it was not for my experience at Stanford. It really conceptually, intellectually, personally, from just the perspective of taking risk on myself. And when I get to see current students or recent alum, I think two things that come to mind. One is learn to ask for help and be vulnerable. I think it's such a special environment, and I think it's, especially for people who are looking to pursue entrepreneurship, ability to ask for help is so important. I'm still learning and forcing myself every day, but I think it's just a really wonderful environment to be vulnerable and invest in people around you, like passionately all the time, because how well people will know you through this experience is what's going to, I think, determine your success and how meaningful relationships are. So truly allowing space for serendipity, late night conversations, being class president, social chair, starting conference, small group dinners, all these amazing experiences. This is how people are really going to know you as a person. And I think that will just become so important. I see it so important outside of the GSB.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, turning officially to our audience Q&A. Nagat, Catherine is going to write you an answer to your question about career opportunities within the energy sector. So I want to turn to Preeti's question here of the top 3 pieces of advice for aspiring candidates. Who would like to get started? I'm going to call on someone. Linda, please.
Okay, so I don't know if I have 3, but my top piece of advice is do it. I think that if you even have this like slight feeling in your heart that you should be doing the MSX program, you should apply. Because you just never know what happens, right? Like the magic happens at Stanford. So just do it. The second thing is if you have a family, and Preeti, I think you have a family by the previous question, is that anything is possible and it's actually very pleasurable at Stanford with a family. And my third piece of advice would be just enjoy your life. And this is one way to enjoy life, to make new friends, to make wonderful connections deeply with people, and to, like Catherine said, to invest in yourself.
That's great. Geraldine.
So I would not only echo what Lyndall said, but also circle back to what I mentioned earlier, which is to be crystal clear in your why. And the second is to really know how what you want to get out of this, which I guess is related. I'm thought thinking right now. And the third is to once you've made up your mind on applying and assuming you get in, to just go in with confidence and full heart, and know that you're going to get something out of this program, this experience. It may not be what you expect in the beginning, but just be open-minded about the people you meet, the experiences that you are a part of, the communities that you're a part of, and know that there are going to be moments that are tough, but if they don't challenge you, they don't change you. And the GSB is all about change.
Oh, chills. I'm getting chills, ladies. That's great. Catherine, please.
I'd say, just building on what Geraldine and Lyndall said, I would say 2 things. So one, dream bigger. We've gotten really good shoves in a lot of our different classes and from a lot of our different professors that, you're not setting your goals high enough. So dream bigger and push harder. And then also, really over-index on people and relationships. We had a guest speaker in one of our classes recently say something that really, really resonated with me. That Stanford and the MSX in general, are in particular, are one of the very, very, very few places in your life where you develop relationships without pretense. So the actual comment was, no one comes to the GSB because they think they're going to be there with you. Everyone comes to the GSB for their own specific goals and reasons. And that is why the relationships that you form here are so powerful and so long lasting, because they are real. They're not based on, professional lobbying or wanting to build alliances, for whatever. They are based on people who have an incredibly, forged in fire shared experience. And it's even more powerful because you're all physically here. So you're not just having those class experiences together, you're having those life experiences living at Stanford together. So really, really index on people.
That's wonderful. Are you adding something, Anna? I can't tell. Okay, great. Do we have any additional questions from our audience? We have about 7 or so minutes left here. We have a question about managing school for children. Can you speak a little bit to that from Nikita?
Sure. So California has some great schools, and particularly in Stanford, Nixon School around the corner is number 3. And I think Escondido is number 11 in the whole of California. So they're great schools. Those are public schools. They don't cost a cent unless you wish to donate. And currently my kids go, it's like 8:10 in the morning, and then they get picked up at 2:20. So they are there for the morning. It's currently in person. So let's all just cross fingers that that remains as such, but taking good precautions around there. And very close. So we bike there in the morning. You can walk there in the morning or scooter. It's very convenient. And just there's little like biking clubs that happen here. So all the kids go together in the morning. It's very cute. We've got some great butt pictures of them with the back of their helmets all riding together, trying to beat each other to school.
And I'll go ahead and add just a few more things to know about if you are coming or contemplating coming with children. So as an MSX student, your children are guaranteed a spot in our public school system. So Lindahl just spoke to one of the elementary schools that's very, very close to campus called Nixon. But whether your children are in elementary school or in high school, Palo Alto Unified School District is one of the top school districts in our state. And so your children are guaranteed a spot in one of those public schools while you are a student. But if your children are pre-elementary school, we do have 7 daycare centers on campus, and then a number of different resources in the Palo Alto and in the San Mateo, Santa Clara County that are available for child support. So a lot of options available to you. Once you get admitted to the program, that's actually when you can start applying to those daycare centers, and we will guide you through the public school requirements to establish residency so that your children can get enrolled. So really good information also available on our website if you're curious about those daycare centers, learning a little bit more, or even summer camps. It's under student and family life in the Stanford Msx program. Okay, if our audience doesn't have a final question, then I will go ahead and add a final question here. Nikita, follow up for Geraldine and Lindahl. I'll actually expand this to everyone, and then I'll go ahead and ask a question. But what is a class that you have found incredibly valuable from your MSX experience?
So I can start. So Nikita, the other class is Paths to Power. It's taught by Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer, and it's a classic class. Professor Pfeffer is a legend. Highly recommend it. Another class I would highly recommend is Managing Growing Enterprises. I think several of us here have taken it, and that class has taught me how to approach and embrace difficult conversations, whether in the workplace or in personal lives. And for me, my biggest takeaway from that class is being firm and direct is kind when you're giving tough feedback. Because for me, I've always tended to avoid giving tough feedback, and that was a big aha moment for me. And the lecturer whom I took it with, David Dodson, was just fabulous. Catherine, Lindahl, Anna, do you have other recommendations on classes?
Yeah, so I echo that. Fast Power, Interpersonal Dynamics, MGE. It's fantastic. I actually discovered a new one called Humor. Who knew that like humor would be a thing at the business school? And it was the best 2-credit class ever. It was like, yeah, can't compare it to data and decisions, which is like my speciality. But humor was so fantastic to realize how important it is to have humor in the workplace, and how that like breeds creativity, and how just like people just develop better and have better teams because of humor. So that was a new one for me.
Excellent.
I can share, certainly, of course, touchy-feely, transformative. As an alum, I'm also having to take it a couple of years down the road. It's actually available to alums in a shorter format. So that's my goal is to be taking it every 5 years. A number of my friends here in New York who are alums as well are actually taking training to become facilitators. They really want to come back. So it's just an amazing experience and very deep level of connection with your classmates in that course and people who are in your T group. And another one is winning writing. It's a course that's taught by a managing editor of the New York Times, Glenn Craman, and is just the most functional course. I think it teaches you to communicate with clarity in the writing, everything from cold emails, which you may end up writing a lot if you become an entrepreneur all day, every day, practically, to just performance reviews, assessments, dealing with PR. It's very practical. And Glenn just actually reads your emails and reads your homework and gives you comments. So it's kind of incredible to have your homework graded and receiving feedback from the editor of New York Times. It's a huge privilege, and he's a wonderful friend.
Would round that out by saying, 100% agree on Path to Power. It's been one of the most spectacular classes. And then as a complement to what Anna was just saying on winning writing, there's another class called Strategic Communications, which is really spectacular. So it's the everything but the written parts that Anna, that you get in winning writing. And it basically emphasizes that as a communicator, as a leader, the only thing that you cannot delegate is communicating with people. And how do you do that effectively? Sets you apart from a leader who's, okay and has a leadership role to a leader who actually inspires people to follow them. So, things like that are really complementary to the core business fundamentals, I think, are what make the experience really special.
And on that note, ladies, that was wonderful. I feel like I've learned so much and just the tangible takeaways that you guys have been experiencing from this program. So I want to say thank you very much for joining all of us today. This was really spectacular to hear your stories. I'll do a little applause here on behalf of everyone. But I do want to release you to the rest of your Wednesdays. So thank you to all of you that joined us. Thank you to our fabulous panelists. You guys are wonderful. For those of you who maybe have an outstanding question, I'm happy to stay on for the next few minutes. Otherwise, I want to say good luck as you are contemplating Stanford Msx. And ladies, I look forward to connecting with y'all soon. Thanks a lot, team. Bye.